the treatment of cancer is administered by poisons from the 1970s and before that are relative to DDT and everything else, that actually has itself become a cancerous process. So instead of actually recognizing and treating the illness, we end up selling not panaceas, because it does sometimes work, we essentially sell the treatments at the expense of the social body. You see what I mean? It's the treatment of cancer has mimicked the very cancerous behavior itself. And that, of course, links partly back to economics anyway. And I'm just wondering whether this is worth pursuing as some kind of thesis where you can say, look, there are at least 3 or 4 different areas in modern society where we now have a renewed ability or a birthed ability to be able to talk about the way that something is progressing as not necessarily being pro-life or being useful or being addressing for example, the bodily needs of people, whether it's healthcare, the economic needs of people, if it's to do with economics in general, or indeed the literate and storytelling abilities and needs of an author. I'm just wondering, it's been making me think quite a lot recently, and I ended up buying a lot of books that behave this way. I don't know what your thoughts are about this.
I'd say it's definitely an interesting avenue to travel down, because one of the things that Mark Passio explains, because he didn't just do the presentation about the Matrix trilogy, he also was brought on as a guest on the show Down the Rabbit Hole, and through that he basically does the same thing. It's just they both explore it, but when he's explaining about the function of allegory to begin with, he explains that the reason why the Matrix trilogy uses the allegory of an enforced computer simulation is because people wouldn't necessarily enjoy the film as much if it was just outright telling you how we're being enslaved. But instead, if you wrap it up in an allegory, it's easy. A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down, as it were. So wrapping it up in an allegory is definitely it's a way that I can definitely tell where you're coming from here. Where it seems that now is a period in time where it seems we're able to actually start dealing with these problems now, but only very gently and very, very slowly can we sort of like ease ourselves into this sort of thing where we're starting to shake off our blinders, as it were, and start. And why do you think the whole idea of the zombie apocalypse is so appealing? It can't just be the fact that it provides an excuse to create stories about mindless violence where it's inconsequential because really you're killing an undead person that isn't really that person anymore. So you're alleviated of any responsibility for that kind of violence. There could be that angle to it, but it's also the sort of thing, why are zombies? Loads of people. I've had conversations with people, and they've actually used the phrase "zombies rule," and I say, really? So zombies have some sort of regal authority over society, and they just started going off on loads of ad hominem fallacies. But it's this question of why is this idea of catastrophe, disaster, death, murder, destruction, apocalypse. This is a recurring theme in mainstream fiction now. The idea that there's this huge cataclysmic crisis that we seem to hunger for in some way. And as you say, I think that. I think you're probably right in saying that it's probably indicative of the notion that we're possibly reaching a point now where we can finally start dealing with these issues, but we can't deal with them as they actually are. We have to wrap them up in fictional clothes, so we can deal with them easier.
Yeah, or employ an allegorical or model form in order to decode them, because it's become so difficult to think about them, and so structurally difficult, socially difficult to do them. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. You bring up the point of dehumanization. I think I've never really considered that before. The idea that you're absolved of any worry or empathy because that human body is actually evacuated of any particular humanity. Yeah.
I mean, that's. If you watch any, it's almost become a staple of zombie films where there's like a group of people, one of them becomes infected, and then there's that scene where the character that was close to that character who has turned into a zombie is like has a gun to their head, and they realise they have to shoot them, but they don't want to. And then there's the character that says they're no longer that person anymore.
Yes, this happens in The Walking Dead, episode 3 or 4 of the first season, with one of my favourite actresses, Sarah Wayne Callies, is in that scene. And it happens, although it is undermined in Shaun of the Dead as well.
That's the example I was thinking of.
Yeah. That's a very, very clever one because, of course, spoiler alert, stop listening now, but if you haven't seen it, he survives and end up carrying on being buddies.
Yeah.
Which I think is what they're getting at, there's actually still something human about them. But yeah, the zombie stuff is interesting. I mean, there are people out there who consider zombies to be real. In fact, there is a man who is he's known for being a zombie. I can't remember his name now. I didn't look into it.
Rob Zombie?
No. Narcisse, his name was, as in Narcissus. I can't remember his first name. You can look it up on Wikipedia if you look up like real zombies or Narcisse, almost like Narcissus. You'll find him. But I mean, come on, I think most of that stuff is essentially as hearsay and comes from the same root as the whole idea of zombism itself. But yeah, it struck me as an interesting thing. By the way, on another note, and I hate to keep jumping around like this, but
that's fine, all right.
Come across something recently I think you would like, because of course we were just saying that it's actually very, very tricky to keep up with, everything you should be avoiding, and we want to be able to surpass on an individual level, perhaps through our purchases and our purchasing behavior. We want to get around some of the bigger companies that are causing real problems and maybe push social issues as a way of doing that. I came across something recently that's free and that works really, really well, that I want to promote. I have absolutely no affiliation with this, and of course it's free anyway. It's called Boycott. Have you come across this, Adam?
Can't say I have, no.
I mean, the phrase boycotting is the same as boycotting. They're just punning on the word.
Yeah.
But Boycott is so it's spelled exactly like boycott, but with a U instead of an O at the beginning. It's an application, at least for the iPhone, and it probably must be for Android as well.
Oh, that's why I haven't heard of it. I don't have an iPhone.
Which features a scanner, which you can scan goods at a supermarket and find out whether, for example, they are owned by people and sold by people who are against GMO labeling or that support.
Oh, yeah, I have heard of this. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
No, it's really, really good. They've just redesigned it to make it even better, and it works phenomenally well. If anybody out there is feeling like, they want to be ethical buyers and they want that for very particular reasons, you can essentially download this application. You can join the particular groups on it, or you can indeed create your own within the application itself that, for example, would be demand GMO labeling. So if it is GMO, or if it's been fed GMO food, so for example, cows have been fed GMO corn, then you can essentially scan this thing and it'll tell you if this product conflicts with any of the things that you're following. I would recommend this as a short-term solution so that you can still go to the shops, because we still have to, but you can adapt to, for example, avoid everything owned by the Koch brothers or GMO or anything like that. It's absolutely fantastic. It's really great. And like I say, it's completely free, and it doesn't require you to memorize huge amounts of data. And within the application, it'll actually link to evidence of why that particular company is infringing on stuff. So, for example, with the no GMO labeling, it has within it a wiki, or it references a wiki that's online, that shows you how much money was given by which corporation against, for example, like they supported no to Prop 37, which was the mandatory GMO labeling in California. And they show you how much money there was. Monsanto dropped $8 million, which is twice the biggest twice as big as the next largest donation. And then there's Nestle, Bayer, Eli Lilly, and all the rest of it. And they show you the references, where the evidence is and how much money it was. And it's absolutely great. And it's such a brilliant resource. And it's something that I think eventually TZM will get round to doing as well, if not just pointing towards boycott, having at least something that can work in that way also perhaps as an application as well. I don't know. You know, that kind of structural activism is so useful, and it deserves to be lauded when it comes out. And I think it's really good because it's useful. The other one, and I would recommend this, is also not the organization that we are, but I'm talking about this world-changing book. There's now a second edition, which I've just ordered. You can get it for about £9 on Amazon secondhand. It's this really, really large encyclopedia. It's a compendium. It's basically a reference work for different things. It has very, very early on tips on how to stop buying poisonous disinfectants and floor cleaners and all that stuff. Reasons for why they're bad for you. The fact that they are known to be linked to nervous and toxicity disorders and even cancers as well. And it gives you very, very easy alternatives. And I'm going to start doing this because, I mean, I don't buy that kind of stuff often, but I have bought it. And what better way to improve your world than to stop flushing poisonous chemicals down every orifice of your house? Because they are orifices. They lead into the bowels of the earth. What better way of doing that than to replace it with stuff that doesn't have that effect whatsoever? So start mopping your floor with white vinegar, for example. Or start using baking soda mixed with water to scour surfaces. You know, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this as of tomorrow, and because then I don't have to buy plastic encased, warehoused, and driven poisons which don't necessarily break down in the water supply. And if they do, they have a phenomenal effect of, you know, things like eutrophication and all the rest of it that we've known about since forever. So I just want to point people in the direction of that. They actually even have a website that's won multiple awards as well, which I think has that information on it too. So you might not even have to buy the book. But I've just come across it recently. I think it's so self-evident as a short-term solution. It's something you can be doing now. And the next time someone asks me, you know, what are the top 3 things that you would recommend people do as members of the Zeitgeist movement? Instead of going blank like I did on the London Real interview, I would say, well, for a start, you can stop buying all the poisonous shit that you pretend to clean your house with that actually is poisoning you afterwards, which means you didn't clean it at all. And you can get the free boycott app and start changing your buying habits. The big thing that I think most activist organizations agree about is that we have to use our consumer dollars, our consumer pounds and pence in a way that is immediately effective and that immediately coerces, unfortunately through market forces, the very big, violent multinationals into very much reconsidering what the fuck they think they're doing.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, ending up in hopefully the wholesale devolution of that organization into something that doesn't exist anymore. And as patchwork as that is, it is gratifying to see their share price drop when you no longer buying the stuff that was bad for you anyway.
Yeah, I mean that's the. I mean, going back to the app that you mentioned, that's one thing that I never really looked into the potential for, because when I watched Will Work for Free, the section on apps that Sam did. I mean, just for the listeners, I'm just referring to the documentary Will Work for Free by Sam Vallely, and it's very, very good documentary. It goes through virtually every employment sector and shows exactly what is happening right now in this country, in the UK, that is affecting all those employment sectors in terms of, you know, machine automation and mechanization. I would strongly recommend it for anyone. But the section about apps, that just completely blew my mind, because I had no idea that apps were that advanced. I mean, granted, I don't own an Apple product, so, you know, it's understandable I wouldn't know that much about it, but it's unbelievable what apps can do now. It really is.
It is absolutely incredible. I can do my shopping on it. I can order takeaways on it, which I do too regularly, unfortunately. I mean, my favorite app, and you'll hate me for this, and I hate me for this too, is the Nike running app. Nike, luckily, don't produce their software via slave labor, so that's good. But I've tried a lot of free running apps and some other paid ones, and none of them are as good as the Nike one, unfortunately. Or rather, fortunately, I suppose, because it means I can buy something of theirs that perhaps wasn't made in Indonesia for ridiculous pain and early death. Although, of course, I'm running it on a phone that is produced that way. So, of course, I'm a complete hypocrite in that sense. But what's it getting me to do? It even messages you every now and again going, hey, you haven't run for a while. I don't mind this. This is a good kind of enforcement. And it has a certain type of gamification in it as well, where it ends up giving you points for how much effort you put in, how regularly you run, and how far you run, and all the and how quickly you run, and all the rest of it. I don't mind gamification on that level. That's really quite good. There is, in fact, a gamified US-only app at the moment, unfortunately, called Save Up, which gamifies the idea of saving your money. What could be better than not spending your money for the sake of winning a game? I think that's fantastic. That's exactly what we need, is the reward of frugality, so you don't buy garbage anymore. And I would love to have this. Unfortunately, it only works with the US bank account at the moment, because they basically have to really integrate with your bank account, and that does require serious amounts of back-end security. And they just haven't done it for the UK or for anywhere else yet. And unfortunately, bank accounts, or rather maybe fortunately, bank accounts are not standardized around the world yet. But I don't see why this can't come or why it cannot be done by somebody in the UK. I would personally love it. And actually, to be honest with you, American Express and Barclays actually do sort of gamify their platforms by showing you breakdowns in pie charts of what you spend on, like how much goes on travel, how much goes on hotels and all that. It's partial, but it doesn't really do the thing it should be doing, which is to get you weaned off the idea of spending money regularly. It's bad for the economy if you do that. So there's stuff out here, and I would also agree that, and I would also recommend to your listeners that Sam Vallely's wonderful documentary, which now has over 100,000 views after being out since November the 5th. Came out.
Yeah, it was like quite recently.
Yeah, he's piled it on, man, and it's done really, really well. I mean, when that film first came out, you actually had to type "will work for free" into Google or YouTube, and then scroll for it. Now you just type "will work" into Google, and it suggests the first thing: "will work for free." Now I don't know if that's because in the background it's suggesting stuff that I've looked for before, but I've certainly I've seen it go up the ranks. So that's another thing. What can people do? Well, you could just do what Sam did, and he's not a filmmaker. By his own admission, he's not. He spent forever. He was on ZM Global talking about this. He spent forever building a document, particularly on technological unemployment, the automation of labor at a more rapid rate than humans can learn new trades, which is the crux of understanding you need to be able to debunk the Austrians' idea that it's a myth. No, it's not a myth. Human beings learn at a certain speed, and machines learn quicker. And once they have learned, you can make all of them learn it at once. So no, you can get into this sort of thing as well and produce films on the matter. They don't all have to be 2 hours and 6 minutes long, like Sam's has to be. It could be 20 minutes. I was years ago approached by two different groups of student filmmakers from Portsmouth University for their things. They had to make a film about something. I think it was some social issue. They took me for both of it and interviewed a lot of other people. They even managed to get Jack Fresco in one of them. And those got thousands and thousands of views. I mean, they were like 20 or 30,000 views on just one post for one of them. And these are just a bunch of university students. All of this has a huge ripple effect. All of this spirals out and hits people in the face somewhere, not in the very violent way that I've just described. And it does have an effect. It does make people think twice. It does make them behave differently, and it is worth it. And what could be more gratifying? Because I often think about, I'm a little bit morbid, I suppose, but I often think about what are the last moments of my life going to be like, Recently I had the opportunity to find that out when I realized it could be very, very sudden, and you could just die in a car crash immediately, or die in the ambulance on the way to hospital afterwards. Or, more likely, and fortunately for some and unfortunately for others, we could spend that staring at the wall of a hospital room as we die slowly in our beds when we're let's hope, much older. Now, what is it that's going to be going through your head at that point? Mostly regret. I hate to inform you, dear listener. And mostly it's going to be, God, I wish I had my body back and I could have done something with the planet, or at least, spend a little bit more time doing the things that I now realize are valuable. There was actually an article recently on the internet where a bedside nurse, revealed what the top 10 things were that people regretted in their final times. And one of them was not spending enough time with their children and working too much. One was not staying in touch with people. And the other one was not going and doing what I wanted to do and caring too much about what people thought about what I thought.
Exactly, yeah.
And this is a big thing. Disabuse yourself of that as soon as you can, and emancipate yourself in all possible social ways, and get out there and do at least one thing that you can then turn over in your mind as you do go towards the great sleep. Should be emotion enough to do that. It should be motivation, I should say, enough to do that. And it's always worth bearing that in mind. What would my 85-year-old frail self think about how I'm behaving?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like one of the things that I used to say on the megaphone a while ago. That I'd say, what do you think that you will be thinking on your deathbed? Do you really think you'll be thinking, oh, I wish I bought more stuff? You're not going to be thinking about that.
Yeah, it's well put. You put it in about 5 words, where I put it in 2 paragraphs. Absolutely. And
Well, you have to when you're on a megaphone.
Good. Yeah, the brevity does win. But it is true. It's no accident that we are constantly dominated by youth culture, because they don't want you to think about getting older. Or if it is, then it's to do with trying to regain your youth and not grow old disgracefully, as I plan to do. So all of that stuff is important. And I think actually, just to curve right back to the beginning of the interview, when you asked me whether there is a hidden agenda or a wider agenda to advertising, I think actually I would have to say that is probably the dominant one, is that they are trying to get you to forget your humanity, to forget that you are temporary. You are beautiful right now. You'll be beautiful when you die, but you're going to be less beautiful then, and that's okay.
And you're going to be more beautiful if you own our products.
Exactly. And so all of this time is spent showing you young, youthful bodies, so showing you the beauty in youth wasted on those who don't realize they're youthful or beautiful until it's gone. And they don't want you to think about the things that really do matter, which are those temporal things like spending time with your family and staying in touch with your friends and doing the things that really motivate you, and not working so damn hard and not being so damn productive. One thing I really can't stand about modern life is this stupid getting things done thing. Have you heard about this? GTD.
Yeah.
The idea of being more productive is only good when you're producing something interesting. I really think getting efficient at work is really very good. I'm lucky in the job I have. I seem to do fairly efficiently anyway, so that's good. And it keeps my employers happy, keeps me happy. But I don't think you should be adapting yourself to be a better slave. I think you should be adapting yourself to be a dangerous slave. And I think that's worth fighting.
Yeah, I mean, because if you think about it, Ted Bundy was very efficient in what he did. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what people should be doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, Alex Jones is phenomenally efficient.
Oh, yeah.
He's fantastic at getting people riled up about bullshit. What's that wonderful line from my new favourite comedian, Chad Fisher? He goes, I take viable points of contention and try to make them sound as ridiculous as possible. It's true. And, but of course, yeah, we can be really, really brilliant at all the wrong things. And if anybody should take anything away from this interview, one should hopefully take away the notion that it is worthwhile to be more efficient at trying to be more efficient. As recursive as that seems to be. It is nice that you're working to provide food for your family. Everyone has to do it. But bear in mind that your family can't be chosen, because it is the entire planet. It's that wonderful line from They Might Be Giants, the band that still educate me after all these years. There's that wonderful song about evolution. They sing about, it's my brother the ape, it's called. And he has this very, very comic song about being invited to a family picnic where he discovers, mosses and lichens and apes, which are all his family members, and he says right at the end, they say you can't choose your family, but there's only one to choose. Yeah. And that's could there be anything more beautiful than that? So when you are wanting to provide food for your family, bear in mind that most of your family has not been born yet, and there'll be 10 10 billion of them by 2050. And
Wow.
may never meet you, but they will be around with you, and they will require your help now for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I think it's actually that you helped me come to this conclusion that, you know, what we do is not for us, because we recognise the very stark possibility that everything that we talk about, everything that we advocate, everything that we push for will not come to fruition in our lifetime. I mean, it's unlikely that it will come into fruition in both yours or my lifetime, but we do it anyway. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. Because, you know, it's one of the things that I use to sort of disarm the propaganda that people throw out at me when they say, "Oh, I'll be long dead before then. Why should I care?" And I'm like, "Do you have any children? Do you have any people who are younger than you that you care about? Then why do you not care about the?" I mean, because I especially use this logic on parents who are apathetic. I say, why did you give birth to your child only to force them to inherit the kind of world that you're apathetic about? Why did you give birth to them? Why are you forcing them to inherit this world? Don't you care about their lives? Don't you care about their kind of future? You know?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. A corollary point to your understanding, which is absolutely true. You know, the idea that we're not doing this to benefit ourselves. My God, we do it to our detriment. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
One of my expenses is Zeitgeist. It costs me so much to fly places and to spend all my free time doing things and to buy all the books. I don't have a fund for that. I don't ask anybody for any money. It's a huge expense, but you know what? I love spending money that way because I know I'm bolstering a tiny part of the economy that deserves to grow, which is that information. And I don't say this out of some kind of woe is me thing. I love the fact that it costs me money. I'm glad that it does. It should cost me money. And everything I produce should therefore be free. But the corollary point I wanted to make, where you say, you know, we're not doing it for our benefit. In fact, people then also say, oh, when Zeitgeist controls the world, blah, 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 you just want to be in charge. Actually, no. There is no way that we could be in charge based on the logic of our own arguments, which is that we should have nobody in charge. We should be deliberately, laying down the logic and letting the train of thought build the kind of society and produce the kind of people who can then update it. It by definition means that it's not us that's going to do anything. We're poor advocates for a system that does not require government. Yeah, we come back to that word by people. We should not be in charge. We can even put it that directly. I should not be voted in. There regularly, well, not regularly, every now and again we get some very misguided people say, Ben McLeish should run for office. Ben McLeish I want to vote for Ben McLeish. He's my leader. Idiots say this, and I call them idiots because by this time, I'm thinking of 2 or 3 particular people, they have heard over and over again, sometimes from me directly, that the whole point of what we talk about is to supersede and get past that need. And so to then curve it round and say we should vote for you is just irritating. It means they're deliberately not listening. Yeah. And it gets me annoyed. I don't call them idiots. In fact, I should rescind that because it's insulting. But, you know, that sometimes gets thrown at it too. But I'll add one more thing to this point, and that's it's my favorite bit of rabbinic literature. There's not much rabbinic literature that impresses me, but Rabbi Hillel, who was an old Babylonian rabbi, who's famous for saying, when somebody said, could you recite the whole of the Torah standing on one leg? He said, yes, it's do unto others you would have do unto you. Now, all the rest is commentary. Now, go and read the commentary. Famous for saying that, but his best thing he said, and it's when I hear people say, oh, your worldview is impossible. What? The whole globe working together for the benefit of all humanity and all of the ecology? God, that's impossible. That's never going to happen. Then I say to them, you know what? Okay, let's grant that you're right. Rabbi Hillel says the following: the task may be impossible, but that does not allow you to give it up.
Yeah.
It's okay. It might be impossible. Let's say it is. Should we not pursue it? I think it's a valid end in itself to attempt to update and upgrade and empower society through every single individual, through all of the wonderful tools that we have. I think that is itself worth saying, even if it is ignored. I would rather go down in history, which I will not, but I'd rather go down as a footnote for putting my weight on that side of the fence.